Hello and welcome to my podcast called Innervation. Innervation was inspired by my previous podcast, Silence, where over the course of 2 years I ended up speaking with a total of 100 women from science, technology, engineering and mathematics, or STEM. It was a weekly podcast and I kept all of those guests anonymous so that they could talk openly and honestly about their lives. We discussed their experiences, what they've learned along their life journeys, and their hopes and ideas for living fulfilling and contented lives. Because their identities were always kept safe, the conversations on Silence were always so raw and transparent. And we didn't just talk about being women in STEM, but about everything. The topics that tended to come up are also the same topics that I discuss with my friends and family, or my mentees, or people ask me about after I've given a talk in schools and colleges. So I thought, rather than keep all of these topics behind closed doors, how about opening them up into the world so that we can all hear about topics that are really important to us? So what I've done is sift through all the episodes of Silence to bring you my favourite soundbites about these certain topics. Each week on Innervation, I'll be reflecting on the perspectives that came up on Silence that I feel are actually pearls of wisdom from my women in STEM that I found particularly provoking, inspiring and empowering, in the hope that they resonate with you too. This week is all about honesty. So why did I want to do a podcast about honesty? Well, it's just something that I think is really important. I really need to be around honest people because I just need to have things be straight and transparent, and it's just really important to me that I'm dealing with truth between the people that I have relationships with. Truth. I'm not good with basically lies. I'm not good with lies. I need truth. And the thing about honesty is it's so layered. I generally consider myself to be an honest person, but the more honest I want to be, the more I realize that sometimes honesty isn't easy, because sometimes we can actually be in denial for ourselves. We think we're not tired, for example, but actually if we're being really, really honest, we're actually exhausted. That kind of thing where it's like, oh, I'm not really being honest with myself. And so I wanted to sort of just find out what women from Silence have been talking about and what their perspectives are on this topic, to just see what kind of things come up. And because they are women in STEM, obviously they often talk about things in a women in STEM context. And a lot of women in the workplace wanted to be able to have a very honest culture, because as women in STEM, we're surrounded by a lot of men, and it would be so much easier if there was just a culture of honesty where you can say, I'm exhausted, or I'm worried about childcare, or I'm not sure I'm going to be able to put the time in because of my family, and just be able to be transparent in that way. And a lot of women in STEM were either working for startups or wanting to work in companies where there is a culture of honesty, because it means that they can really show up in a transparent way and they can do their work better. I think often, people just show up to their fullest potential when there is a culture of honesty. And that's my opening quote from episode 54, where my guest really talks about the importance of honesty at work and how it brings out the best in her and her co-workers.
The benefits they give their workers, the flex time, the ability to have daycare on site, creating a culture that allows for honesty around goal setting for your own personal life equates to better employees, bar none.
Yeah. I think there's really something in that when you're surrounded by people that want to be honest. I think we can always tell when something doesn't feel quite honest, and it can make us feel guarded and on edge. And I think, being surrounded by people that do want to be upfront really allows you to let your guard down and relax and feel like you're in a comfortable environment. And I think if that can be cultivated at work, that's even more amazing, because sometimes the workplace can be a really dishonest place, because, sometimes at work you just want to say, you know what, I'm really struggling with this project, but we can't often be that honest because we're scared we're going to lose our jobs. And so to think that some women really wanted to be in a very honest environment is actually a great sign that it's possible and people want it, and that companies are making strides towards that goal. My guest from episode 74 puts it really succinctly.
So you've got to build a good team. You've got to have that trust and honesty.
Yeah. So why are people dishonest in the first place? I think, people are scared of showing their true selves. They're scared of not being accepted for their truth. They're scared of hurting other people's feelings. And they're scared of actually coming across as being something that wasn't expected, and therefore being rejected. So being dishonest is really driven by a lot of fear. I think the reason why we are dishonest is because we are scared of the consequences of being honest. And the consequences can be tough. None of us want to be rejected. None of us want to not belong. And so sometimes we have to be dishonest to prevent those things from happening. And if we are honest, or someone's honest with us, it can hurt. It can feel really bad. And so, I think the way we deliver our honesty has to be really tactful. It has to be handled with care, because I think sometimes when we are honest, it can cause problems. And so when honesty is delivered in a kind, generous and gentle way, I think it can go a long way in a very positive direction. This from episode 32.
You can be compassionate about it. You don't have to be mean or nasty, but you can be honest and direct. And I think people appreciate that more so than you're being wishy-washy because you're worried about how they're going to respond to you.
I definitely appreciate people being honest with me. I really need people to be honest with me, even if it does hurt to hear the truth. But I'd much rather that than people kind of like trying to butter me up or telling me things that just they know aren't true, because I really struggle to trust people that are saying things I want to hear. I'd much rather people say things as they are. I can't guarantee that I'll receive it well, though. Often when people have been honest with me, it's been like an ouch moment where it's like, ow, that really hurt. But that's really down to me, how I receive people's honesty. I think if I do want people to be honest with me, I have to be grown up enough to be able to accept their honesty and receive their honesty. And that's really my own responsibility. And that can be the thing about honesty, how we receive it. I think it's a lot of subjects are difficult to talk about because they do get really honest. I mean, I ended up keeping a lot of my guests anonymous on my podcast because everyone was getting really, really honest. And as a result of that level of honesty, we had to keep our identities safe on Silence, my former podcast. And, there are just topics that are difficult and have to be handled with care. And, when they are, I think it can be really, really enriching. And people respond really well to honesty. I think maybe we live in a world that isn't very honest, whether that's social media or whatever. Like, everyone's painting a picture of what they think they should be, and that can be really dishonest. But I think when people are really honest and they're really vulnerable and they lay their cards out on the table, it can be so bonding, it can be so connecting to just be honest. And it takes a lot of strength and courage to be honest. It takes a lot of self-belief and self-love to be honest, as my guest from episode 90 describes.
Like, speaking about mental health and how you were actually feeling was quite a taboo subject. But now in the office, if one of us is struggling, or a friend, we'll go and have a coffee catch up, or we'll speak over the phone. We can just be honest, and we can talk about how we're actually feeling. And then it's kind of like I guess what you could say, a therapy session with your friends, because you're laying your cards on the table, you're saying what's wrong, you're having someone listen to you. And even if they have no advice, just saying it out loud really helps. So speaking about mental health is a really powerful tool.
I'm actually realising now that honesty is a powerful tool, because if someone has the courage and the strength of character to be honest, that's a real sign of integrity. And, it does take a huge amount of integrity to be honest. And I think if you do meet people that are honest, don't let them go, because, honesty is just such an amazing characteristic to have. And I don't think many of us try it, as in, we do tend to tell the odd lie here and there. And I think, when we do, it's a time to really self-reflect and go, okay, why did I need to be dishonest there? Like, what is it that I'm trying to hide? And I certainly want to practice that, where if I ever am dishonest for whatever reason, like, I need to sort of meditate on that and say, why do I feel like I need to conceal the truth? I've always been a deep, deep seeker of truth. I've always wanted to get to the bottom of things. I think that's why I studied science, because I just wanted to get to those universal truths and understand them. But yeah, there are times when I am dishonest because I'm scared. I'm scared to reveal the true me. And those are times when, I would really do well to try and unpick why I do that and try and grow from it. My guest from episode 96 gives her reflections on it.
It really is a process of trying to deal with all of those emotions. And I think also kind of opening up the floodgates, allowing myself to really feel the emotions and think about, okay, why do I still feel this way? What can I do to help? Having those conversations with my mom, like, hey, I'm not doing that great. I'm just really scared of disappointing you. I'm scared of disappointing everybody. And
being honest and open.
Yeah. And just the support that I would get from them in return, I think just really helped me move forward. Like, hearing my mom explicitly say, like, I know that you can do this. I don't want you to feel like you would be disappointing me if you didn't. I think just that's what really made the difference for me.
I think it is really important for all of us to have one person, at least in our life, that we can just be completely honest with. Because if we don't have that, it's really, really exhausting. Having to keep up a facade and pretend to everybody is just so exhausting. And I do wish for everybody that they have someone they can turn to where they can be completely and utterly themselves and just be totally transparent, where you can let your guard down and just reveal who you truly, truly are. I think I have that with my family. I definitely don't feel good if I ever have to withhold something from them. But yeah, we definitely all need that. Someone who really sees us for who we are. And it's not just the emotional side of things that we're trying to protect and conserve by being honest, I think honesty really does affect every single aspect of our lives. And my guest from episode 54 really talks about how she gets honest with herself, and that really helps her to keep on the straight and narrow, not just personally, but also professionally.
Be honest with yourself. What are your goals? It's funny. You can lie to yourself all day long talking. You can't lie to yourself writing. Write down where you want to be. I do this at least once a year, in a year, in 5 years, in 10 years. What is really important to you? Is it the family? Is it the accolades? Is it all those trappings of awards? That's okay. It can be.
I think if we're honest with ourselves, it helps us be the best versions of ourselves that we can be. And, it is hard to be completely honest, especially to other people, because that's really where we are truly seen. And sometimes it's actually not safe to be completely who you are, say in the workplace or in some kind of unfamiliar setting. But I think it is really also important to have times and environments and spaces where you can truly, truly be yourself. And I think when we have that time and space to be honest, it's really enriching for us. And, that's why I love meditation, because when I'm in meditation, I don't have to keep up any facades, I don't have to perform, I don't have to be anything that I'm not. And that can be a really wholesome, enriching time. And, I wish that for everyone listening, and I wish that with other people as well. I think it's really important to not just be honest with ourselves, but to a certain few key individuals that are there for us and accept us the way we are and have our backs. Honesty is definitely the best way forward. Thank you so much for listening this week. Please do subscribe to this podcast and maybe even rate and review if you can. I'd love to have your feedback about this episode or any others that you've listened to, and maybe some suggestions for future topics on this show. It's all about self-discovery and self-evolution on Innervation. So be kind and loving to yourself, and I wish you all a great week.